I get to do an introduction of a talk that I've been looking forward to for the last week or so. This really is interesting to me. For many years, what we've been trying to do is pursue the holy grail, really, of treating our waste as a resource. And it seems to me that the city of St. Cloud is tackling this problem head on, and initially starting with resource recovery and energy efficiency. The city has really become a leader in the innovation of wastewater recovery and in the industry. So we have 4 speakers from the city of St. Cloud who are going to tell us about that today. Rocio Durkot is water quality coordinator for the city of St. Cloud and has been with the city for 8 years. Rocio started as a lab technician before being promoted to her current position, where she now works in the stormwater, water, and wastewater divisions. Jacob Ethan is the wastewater services manager at the Nutrient Energy and Water, the new recovery facility in St. Cloud, Minnesota. He has managed the facility and its wastewater treatment, renewable energy production, and nutrient recovery processes since 2020. Chris Weber brings over 7 years of service to the city, where he currently holds the position of wastewater services specialist with a focus on the recovery of nutrients from wastewater. Chris has spent the last 2 years implementing innovative strategies to enhance the environmental sustainability and resource efficiency within the city's infrastructure. And finally, Emma Larson has worked for the city of St. Cloud for 15 years now and is the Assistant Public Utilities Director, overseeing the wastewater and stormwater divisions within the city. Emma has worked as part of the utilities team for the Energy Efficiency and Biogas Project, the Nutrient Recovery and Reuse Project, and is now helping lead the team working on implementation of fuels of the future. I noted that just before we get going here, the city has been awarded the Utility of the Future 5 times in the last 6 years for their work related to sustainability. So they come eminently qualified to talk about what they're going to be telling us about today. You guys take the floor. It is all yours.
All right. Yeah, I'm just going to share my screen here. Bear with me.
All right. Thank you, Rocio. And thank you all for having us. Thanks, Mark, for setting this up. We're excited to meet new people and share our story of St. Cloud's transformation in the last number of years. So please stop us at any time for questions and try and keep this pretty informal. Excuse me. Next slide, Rocio. And this is just a little bit of background about the city of St. Cloud for anyone not familiar with the area. Yeah, you can all read, so I won't read it out. And then I think Rocio is going to take over for us.
Yeah, thank you, Emma. So we'll start, talking about the resource recovery here at St. Cloud Nutrient Energy and Water Recovery Facility here. So to start things off, we'll just do a quick little fun fact. So about 70 years or so ago, there was actually no wastewater treatment in the city at all. Wastewater essentially just went straight into our local waterways, such as like the Mississippi River. It wasn't until 1954 where the first facility was built. That facility served the city of St. Cloud until it was decommissioned, and then in 1976, with the Clean Water Act grant funds, the current facility had a new location to where we are now. So since then, we've had a series of upgrades and expansion projects that brings us to what our current nutrient energy and water recovery facility is, which it's a regional facility. It serves a population of 120,000 from 6 cities, soon to be 7 here shortly. We have an average flow coming in of about 10 million gallons a day, with over 300 miles of sanitary sewer pipe that allow wastewater to flow to our facility. We are a full biological nutrient removal facility. We are staffed 24/7, 365 days out of the year. Our operators work very hard here at our facility. We have to give quite a bit of the amazing treatment credit that happens here to them. Since just 70 years ago, like I said, there was actually no wastewater treatment. And since then, we've come such a long way. We now have biofuel and solar energy production on site. And we're actually first in the state to recover phosphorus, which is a non-renewable resource using a struvite harvesting process that Chris Weber will talk a little bit more about later on in the presentation. So to start things off, we'll just do a quick overview of our nutrient, energy, and water recovery process here. Like the schematic can show you all the different resource recoveries that are here at our facility that we're able to achieve. So if we follow the screen, you'll see all like the blue corresponds to our liquid treatment for wastewater. The end product of this is clean water going out into the Mississippi River. And if you follow the right-hand side, it's going to be our solids treatment. So the end product here is going to be our biosolids production, as well as that struvite production. And on top of that, we have renewable energy. So we do biofuel and solar production on site. So to talk a little bit about our liquid treatment overview. Now, if I'm being completely honest, I could probably talk liquid treatment at our facility for, I don't know, probably an hour, but to not bore you guys to death here, I will keep things very brief. So our design flow is 17.9 million gallons a day. We average flow coming in at 10 million gallons a day. We still have quite a few ways to go before we reach our capacity. Now, when wastewater gets to our facility and undergoes a series of treatments, starting off with just our primary treatment, which consists of our bar screen, our grit chamber, which are really utilized to protect the infrastructure at our facility. Bar screen, just removing anything large, and grit chamber, removing things like sand, again, just to protect that infrastructure, protect our pipes. And then the water goes to our primary clarifiers where solids are allowed to settle out towards the bottom. Then the wastewater goes into our secondary treatment, which is consisted of our biological nutrient removal. Here is just a series of different environments that consist of like anaerobic, anoxic, oxic zones, or zones with oxygen or zones without oxygen. Really what we do here is we strive to give the microorganisms an environment where they will thrive and they will do the majority of the work for us in removing those nutrients such as like phosphorus and nitrogen. From then, the wastewater goes into our final clarification step, which is consisted of our secondary clarifiers. And during our lovely recreational period here, so like April through October, we do treat the wastewater with UV disinfection before it reaches out over into the Mississippi River. And then I will touch a little bit more about solids treatment, and then I'll let Chris Weber go ahead and take the floor after that. And he will expand a little bit more about our solids treatment overview and the resource recovery that goes on with it. So to start things off, from the liquid treatment, there are municipal solids that are produced, approximately about 35,000 gallons per day of these municipal solids. Now, we also started a program that's a high strength waste program. And that program, what it does, it accepts liquid waste streams from like brewery, dairy, and food process companies, and that high strength waste and municipal solids are mixed and then moved over to our anaerobic digesters. And if you think of our anaerobic digesters, think of them functioning like a stomach. They essentially break down organic matter without having any oxygen. So to start things off with the solid treatment, solids go into one of our two primary digesters. And then our primary digesters consist of heat as well as mixing the solids. From then, the solids go to our secondary digester, which is only mixing. Now, I will touch base on here that the biogas that we have is captured during our primary and secondary digesters. Once the solids are treated after our secondary digesters, they go towards our storage digester, and leaving the storage digester, we have what is referred to as our Class B biosolids product. It goes into the primaries at approximately 9% total solids, goes out at around 4% total solids. Now, from here, once we have that Class B biosolids, the solids go into a Listec process, which the end product is considered a Class A biosolids, liquid biosolids. And believe it or not, it is liquid, even though it has such a high percent of total solids, sitting at about 14%, immediately living that LISTEC process. Our Class A biosolids, we do recycle about 4.5 million gallons per year of these solids. And like I said, there's so much more to our liquid and our solids treatment. But for the sake of keeping this short, I will move on and I will let Chris Weber touch base about a little bit more about our solids and what he does and what his expertise are in.
Thank you, Rocio. Okay, so these, you'll hear us use the word NR2. Just know that that stands for nutrient recovery and reuse projects. It was just these three were put in pretty close succession to each other. All three of these processes work together. The one that's before it was the one after. So when we start with our biofuel recovery, the biosolids reuse was required because of that. We wanted to utilize high strength waste to produce biofuel, which would mean that we'd have a lot of extra solids going into our digesters. And in order to deal with that, we needed to create a way to deal with those extra solids because we were already approaching having full cells. And so then we put in our centrifuge and LISTEC process. And then after that, that centrifuge creates a nutrient-rich side stream that we would then have to deal with. So we put in a nutrient recovery system or the Austera system. I will be covering the last two of these, and Jacob will be covering the first one after. Okay. All right, so these are actually two processes here. They were originally stalled because we were actually, even before adding high strength waste and adding those extra solids to our digesters, we were already reaching a point where we were running out of space between hauling seasons to hold. And so we needed a way to lower the amount of product that was going out of our facility. The first process is dewatering with our centrifuge, Centrisis centrifuge. This removes 70% of the liquid, creating both a nutrient-rich side stream and a high solids cake that comes out. So underneath the centrifuge is the hopper, and so that's catching our high solids cake. This high solids cake is put into our LISTEC reactor for further processing. And then I will go over the second side stream, the side stream from that centrifuge later. Okay. So this is our LISTEC process. The solids from the centrifuge are pumped into our LISTEC reactor at about 15%. So that's what our centrifuge is doing. We can actually do more than that, but in order for us to be able to perform the LISTEC process, we only thicken it to about 15%. It is then heated to 164 degrees Fahrenheit. We add potassium hydroxide to increase the pH up to around 9. And then we have a high shear mixing for 20 minutes. This allows us to lyse the cells. Lysing means just breaking down the cell walls, which allows us to turn our high solids cake into a high solids liquid that we can then store and inject into our fields. By putting this process in, it lowered the amount of solids we were putting out each hauling season by about 70%. Okay. So all solids produced through the LISTEC process are injected into the fields in the spring and fall. We haul approximately 1,800 dry ton of Class A biosolids every year. And due to the LISTEC process, creating a more equal type of product, is a very uniform product. It actually pumps better at our 14 to 15% solids than we were able to pump with the 4% solids we were just getting out of our digesters. So the Class A actually pumps better than our Class B, even though it's more solids in it. Okay. All right, so next I'm going to go over our nutrient recovery process. We feed 2 nutrient-rich side streams into our Austera reactor. So you can see I'm a nutrient recovery in the purple box. We actually have 2 streams going into that. One is the side stream from the centrifuge. We actually hold that in an EQ tank to allow us to have a constant feed going into our reactor. This stream is rich in our orthophos, magnesium, and ammonia, which is the main drivers for the nutrient recovery process inside the Astera reactor. The reason we got pumped into a tank and then hold it is because our centrifuge only runs on batches. So we process about 300,000 gallons a week, which takes us about 3 to 4 days. But the Astera process is running 24/7, 7 days a week. So we just have to make sure that we're equalizing and kind of adjusting our flow so that we have constant flow going into that Astera reactor. The second stream going in is, well, before I cover that, I'll go over a little bit how our gravity belt system works. So we thicken our waste activated sludge to 2% on a gravity belt. We then send it out to a holding tank for 36 hours to allow the phosphorus to turn into orthophosphate. Then we bring it back across a second gravity belt with our raw sludge from the facility. And the filtrate that comes off of this belt is then sent directly into our reactor. That side stream is very rich in the magnesium and orthophosphate as well, but it doesn't have a lot of ammonia. So we need both side streams in order to create a process that really works well. Okay. So this is our Astera reactor. On the right is the reactor itself. It's 3 stories high, and the reactor maintains a fluidized bed by moving about 1,300 gallons per minute, injecting through the bottom, and kind of keeps the product that the struvite that we have inside of it fluidized and just up and floating. That allows it to kind of create a consistent product size and keep everything building evenly. The educator on the left we use for what's called seeding. We have to seed our Astera reactor a flour-like substance or a flour-like struvite. It allows something for the as we're building struvite to grab onto other than the walls or something like that inside the reactor. And this allows us to continually seeding allows us to continually make a product that's consistent. And so then once that's in there, then we can grow it to our preferred size, and then we can harvest it out. Yep. So this is our nutrient recovery, the shaker box on how we get the product out of the reactor. So the way we harvest is by using a dryer shaker there on the left. We inject some of the product from the reactor. We allow it to flow down across the screen where any excess fluid is removed. And then we put the struvite into our dryer shaker. As it goes through the dryer at about 150 degrees, since there's product constant being added about every 2-3 minutes, it kind of pushes the product along the dryer shaker until it overflows. Once it overflows, it then goes through an air injector up into our silo. Once we get up to about 40,000 pounds in our silo, there in the middle, that's about 2 stories tall. We get 40,000 pounds in there. We then call for a truck to haul our struvite that we've created. Now, once it's a dried product, we actually call it pearls. They're very small, about the size of like a grain of rice. And we haul them to, we load them into a truck using our conveyor. It's a screw conveyor that we have a load bay on the other side of that wall. The truck just parks underneath it, and we're able to use the screw conveyor. And takes about 3 hours to load the product into a truck. We then send it to Astera for final processing. A majority of what we produce on site is actually sent to the Red River Basin. Okay. So this is actually a close-in of our Astera process. I must have got some slides mixed around, but I just wanted to go over this. So this is actually how our Astera reactor works. So the 2 side streams where it says nutrient-rich influent, that's both of our side streams being injected in. We then add magnesium because even though the 2 side streams are rich in magnesium, we still need more. And then we have to make a pH adjustment with sodium hydroxide to maintain a pH of 8. If we get more than 0.2 below that, the process kind of halts. And then if we get too far, then we're just wasting sodium hydroxide. So it's really about maintaining exactly 8 pH for the process to work ideally. The struvite grows on the seed that's within the reactor. And once it gets to our desired size, we start to harvest it. We start the harvest. We're able to maintain our reactor. We harvest out about 3,500 pounds a week. And then we have to add about 250 pounds of seed each week. So, and like I said before, the Austera reactor is always running. So, and then if you want to go back one. So there on the right, you can actually see what's laying there around the little vial. Those are our Austera pearls. That's what the final product looks like when it's being used for fertilizer. Okay, next one. So this is our phosphor recovery since we brought the process online. You can actually see that in 2018, we didn't bring it online until around September, so we didn't really get a lot of production out of that. But we've been pretty consistent after that. We did start to grow. We had a little bit of an issue in 2022 trying to get some processes lined up the way we wanted them to work. And so then we were able to recover in 2023. In 2024, it looks like we're on track to have a probably record year for production. And then I am going to hand it off, I believe, to Emma.
Yep.
All right.
All right. So, Rocio gave you an overview of the facility for the processes. So this is actually our facility. It's an aerial of our facility. And you can see where we have each of these different processes and where we managed to cram all this innovation into. The building that Chris was referring to is our nutrient recovery building, which was our biosolids handling facility that we crammed a lot of equipment into. You can see the solar in 3 locations here. This little baby unit was our first sort of jump into the energy world. We have our backup generator, 2 biofuel generators, and then high strength waste receiving. So if you've ever been to the facility, this is the driveway, just to give you some perspective. Next, Rocio. Okay, so the high strength waste edition, we started in about 2017. And that is nearly double the methane production from our pre-high strength waste days. So we're not only utilizing the methane in our biofuel generators, but we're utilizing the heat that comes off it as well and capturing that. Through some SCADA programming and our very smart technicians, we've been able to optimize our energy use. We store gas during the day when the solar is running, and then the dye store acts as a battery to run our generators in the evening. Next. So the energy efficiency programs that we did, or projects that we did prior to really starting to generate our own energy, had already reduced our electrical purchases by 1.6 million kilowatt hours a year. We've now been able to really reduce our natural gas use as well. You can see on here, and we didn't get it updated for 23. But this just shows you the difference in our natural gas use over the last 8 years or so. Next. In 2022, we were up to about 98% of our own energy produced on site. And if you actually include all the community solar gardens that we're subscribed to, we're well above net zero at about 115%. This is just a short timeline of our progress. Sorry. Next. So the Energy Star portfolio has a rating for wastewater treatment facilities, and they will consume about 2,200 kilowatt hours of electricity to treat 1 million gallons of wastewater. In 2022, we averaged 1,500 kilowatt hours, so we're well below the Energy Star rating. But we only had 26 of those kilowatt hours were purchased from the grid. The rest we produced on site. purchase electricity expenditures for our facility have dropped about 85%. With no heat recovery, we would be using around 300 therms of natural gas annually. So we've been able to recover the heat to really bring that down. Might also be worth telling you that in 2019, natural gas prices were at 48 cents. In 2022, they're at $1.05. So even with this, we've really reduced our natural gas use, and the energy savings there on the right, you can see have jumped substantially, which in this day and age is huge for our facility. And then I think I have one more before Jacob. Yeah. So a few things about our path over the last few years. Our big mantra, our saying, or whatever we want to call it, is you can't manage what you don't measure. So there is not enough data, essentially. If you can write it down, if you can track it, we will track it. And that has been huge for us to be able to look back to see how far we've come. We get buy-in from our administration, the city council. That has been huge. Obviously, we have to get permission, essentially, to spend any budget. So having their buy-in, having them understand it, having them really want to be part of this has been really big for these projects. Communicate with the interested parties, with yourselves at the state, other investors, private industry has been a huge thing for us. And then learn from others. Like, we are the first to do a lot of things, but there have been plenty of facilities ahead of us, and we have visited a lot of facilities. We've talked to a lot of operators. We get references and talk to the actual operators of facilities before we really do anything. And we use our whole team. So Mark had contacted me and asked me to talk to you today, but it's our whole team is part of this. So it didn't feel right to go through this whole presentation when our staff is so fabulous and can go through all of this. And with that, I will hand over to Jacob, who will go into all of the hydrogen we have coming, essentially.
Thanks, Emma. Yeah, I get to you've heard where we've kind of progressed from, where, you know, the energy and the resource recovery, and I get to cover the topics of going forward. Where are we going to go? Where are we looking? What are we thinking about? So as you can see, we got RNG up there. We have green hydrogen and oxygen production, long-term energy storage, and then some biosolids technology. The microgrid kind of goes along with the green hydrogen and the energy usage options. So in 2022, the city received an LCCMR grant for a demonstration of hydrogen and renewable natural gas production at a water resource recovery facility. And we're actually currently in negotiations to receive a grant award from the U.S. Department of Energy. And this grant will provide additional resources to integrate a full-scale green hydrogen electrolyzer. As far as biosolids, we were asked to partner again with another LCCMR grant to look at supercritical water oxidation as means of destructing PFAS and biosolids. So stay tuned, that's coming in 2025. And like Emma mentioned, we have a great staff here, a very forward-thinking staff. We have buy-in from city council and admin, and we intend to keep leading the way for innovation of nutrient energy and water resiliency. So new green technologies, so renewable natural gas and green hydrogen. So like I mentioned, the city received a $1.1 million grant from the Legislative Citizen Commission on Minnesota Resources. And this grant will be used for the purchase of equipment, site infrastructure, and piping upgrades and engineering services. Next. So why renewable natural gas and hydrogen now? So one of the slides that Emma showed, the market volatility just from 2018, 2019 to 2022, you know, 50, 60% price increases in natural gas. So energy costs have been rising rapidly. There's currently a lot of grants available, one of them being the Inflation Reduction Act, and the increased calls for sustainability, renewable energy production. And also, as you'll see coming up here, it's a good opportunity to form connections with local industries. Next. So this is an example of a payback calculation for our green hydrogen project. As you can see, it lists the capital, and by the time you have the grants and the different IRA credits that are accounted for example, the green hydrogen project, that equipment life has 15 to 20 year life cycle, and it has a projected payback within 5 years. So again, pretty good incentives. Next. So why hydrogen and oxygen? Green hydrogen has 0 carbon emissions. Green hydrogen can be carbon negative when excess renewable energy is used to fuel electrolyzers. And also it's a fuel that can be stored, whether in liquid or gas. And what's interesting for our facility, it can be used to produce electricity. It can be blended with our CHP engines, or it can be used to decarbonize our boilers, and it can be also blended in our boilers. The oxygen can be captured and used on site for our aeration processes, which is one of our most energy intensive processes. One of the reasons we're looking at hydrogen is we have evaluated renewable natural gas. The CapEx for a renewable natural gas project was higher, and some of that was related to the utility interconnect with the pipeline injection. So that's why we're looking in more detail with the green hydrogen. Next. As far as project goals, there's a lot of potential for water resource recovery facilities to produce carbon-free fuels, not just to be used at their facilities, but to decarbonize other industries. And the beneficial reuse of green oxygen and waste heat also at the facility. So the project goals are to create a holistic system, again, with decarbonizing benefits for multiple sectors, not just resource recovery facilities, but the heating industry and the transportation industry. Next. So this is kind of a tentative project schedule. October 2022, the LCCMR grant. Spring of 2023, we put together this was our facility's first DOE project application. Again, much credit to our staff. That application was, I believe, exceeded 60 pages, and it required a lot of dedication and additional effort from our staff. And this past fall of 2023, we were awarded the $3.3 million that we're currently in negotiations with the DOE for. So we're finalizing our project scope, initiating detailed design, and this month we will start the procurement process for the electrolyzer and some of the equipment. And most of that equipment should be delivered on site. Our goal is Q2 of 2025 to start the installation of that equipment and do the commissioning and start producing the green hydrogen. Next. So very kind of broad overview of the electrolysis process. So you introduce water for our energy. It's going to be solar, and then our electrical production from our biofuel engines. And you create green hydrogen and green oxygen. Like I mentioned, that oxygen can be used in our aeration basins to offset our most energy intensive treatment process. We can capture that heat to, again, heat the buildings here, and also assist with heating our anaerobic digesters. And the hydrogen could be used for transportation fuels for other industries, or it could be used on site, again, or the opportunity to inject into the utility pipeline. So hydrogen is just another means of energy use for this site, but also other industries. Next. So there's 3 main types of electrolyzers on the market. The alkaline and solid oxide, I won't focus much on those, but those technologies have been around for 100 years or more. One drawback with those electrolyzers is they require a very steady electrical input to them, where polymer electrolyte membrane PEM electrolysis process, it can handle the rapid response that, for example, solar has. It can handle the energy input fluctuation. And as you'll see in a couple slides ahead, the footprint of the equipment is much smaller and they're much more efficient. Next. So this is CenterPoint Energy's 1 megawatt PEM electrolyzer in Minneapolis. That's powered by renewable electricity. As a team, we went down and looked at this install last winter. And this unit produces 60 decatherms, 432 kilograms of hydrogen gas. To put that in cubic feet, that'd be 182,000 cubic feet of hydrogen per day. And this unit uses 2 gallons of water per minute. So when you think about that, it's not a lot of water. So the main components of the system are the water purification system. It's just a multiple pass RO. There's a dryer that removes some of the water vapor from the hydrogen. And the picture of the 1 megawatt electrolyzer stack, it's smaller than most people's kitchen table. So it's not a very large piece of equipment, but again, it can produce a significant amount of hydrogen. Next. So kind of a second look at the overview that Emma shared. There's a little blue square in that picture. That would be the future location for that electrolyzer. And then again, adding some additional solar. And then between the nutrient recovery building and the gas storage membrane, where we currently have our flare, at some point, that's where we would expand and have our renewable natural gas equipment. So like I mentioned, the end products and the end users, the hydrogen is a carbon-free fuel. The green oxygen can be utilized on site as well as the waste heat. This facility could be an end user, but also there's other industries in our industrial park back here that would also be users of that fuel to decarbonize their industries as well, and also the opportunity for pipeline injection with the utility. Next. So here's kind of a layout of those other industries. So in our industrial park, we have Speedy Delivery, Amazon Fulfillment, Associated Wholesale Grocers, Anderson Trucking, FedEx, and New Flyer. New Flyer is a bus manufacturer that is advancing their fuel cell hydrogen bus line. So again, that's very exciting for us because they are literally in our backyard. Next. So just some of the key takeaways. Water resource recovery facilities are optimal locations for integration of green energy technologies. They can do more than we ever thought to improve the quality of life. And also the economic benefits of investing in green technologies can have a pretty significant impact for the recovery facilities' operating expenses as well. Next. So quite a bit of information. Hope you enjoyed the presentation. Please hit us with some questions. That's a lot of information in 40 minutes. So yeah, fire away.
Awesome. Thank you guys so much for all of that. That was a lot of information to process. So if you guys all have some questions for our group here, this would be a great time to get all of those detailed questions asked, because I think we've got a lot of different expertise here, a lot of different perspectives. So please go ahead and put your questions in the chat, or if you want to just unmute and ask your question, you're definitely welcome to do that as well.
I got a quick one. Bill Dunn here. Are you
Hey, Bill, go ahead.
land at your facility, or do you have enough real estate?
Take that too. Yeah, we have enough real estate currently. As I say, we've got pretty adept at putting big things in small spaces. Our NR2 process was the prime example of that. If we go ahead with some of the further projects with food waste and that kind of thing, we would look at additional land that we have around us. But the projects that Jacob talks about, it's all on site.
Thank you. It looks like we do have a question in the chat from Scott. What is your projected payback time for the green energy project?
For the green hydrogen project, it's 5 years.
This is Scott
Right.
Kaiser. I've got another question. Like St. Cloud, it's like you guys are operating a spaceship of a wastewater plant. Like you're doing like everything, and it's really impressive, right? And innovative, and right, it's saving you money. It's benefiting the environment. Like it seems like it's a win-win. And I'm just wondering, like how does St. Cloud have that culture to do that kind of innovation? A lot of other wastewater plants in the state are much more resistant to that kind of, I don't want to say resistant, but they're not, they don't have that culture of innovation the way St. Cloud does.
Yeah, and I think it didn't really start as innovation. It started, well, one, the energy efficiency started because why waste electricity? That's just stupid. But the like NR2 project, we were very quickly running out of liquid storage for our biosolids. So we really had to do something there. And we had just actually purchased our own injection equipment and tractors. So the thought of giving all that up to go to a dry product, and so we really wanted to look at a liquid product. And then some of us were at a conference and we met Lystec, and that one kind of went from there. And then for Stera, because we were thickening our biosolids, we were going to have a side stream, and we're being our facility. So we knew we probably shouldn't put that back to the head of the plant because it'll mess up all our treatment. So we had to do something. So that drove the Stera project. The gas utilization, we have used methane in our boilers forever since this facility was started. But we still flared a lot. So in the morning, we would all drive in and we would see our flare going, and it drove a lot of us crazy. So we really wanted to do something to use that gas, and then it just kind of snowballed from there, and here we sit. We're also all really cheap, so like we don't like wasting money and stuff. Maybe shouldn't be the reason to do stuff, but there you go.
I can add to some of Emma's comments. So back in 2012, the facility had a $50 million expansion. And when we got our first couple monthly utility bills after that plant expansion, we're just like, oh my gosh, like what happened to our power consumption, right? So that's when we started to meet as a team and discuss, you know, how can we get our energy usage back down to where it was previously? And we would meet and have process efficiency meetings and look at how can we make the plant run more efficient. We can't afford these utility bills. So 2013 to 2015, we did some kind of in-house optimization of different things. And the results from that were really good. And I think that was kind of like a small win for us. And we just kept compiling those small wins. And I think the staff we all kind of fed off those small little victories and realized like this thing called net zero, we can achieve this because of what we've been able to do with our energy reduction. So it just was a building thing. We just kept building on it.
And the other thing is there's so many opportunities out there that facilities just aren't looking for. We had a MinTap intern that was out of this world smart, like rocket science smart. She was amazing and helped with one of the energy efficiency programs. We've utilized grants. We can get a little creative in writing grant applications. And yeah, there's opportunities there. You just have to put the effort in to go find the money and utilize it.
And a lot of them start with the facilities utility provider. We learned a lot going to Excel would annually hold process efficiency kind of conferences where they talk about their prescriptive and their I can't remember, I think custom rebate programs. So if you're ever looking at any upgrades at the facility, regardless of, everybody thinks LED lights right away or VFDs, and yes, those are out there, but there's also process efficiency programs as well, where upgrades that a facility is going to do, if you get the utility on board with those upgrades, there is some benefit to that, financial benefit.
Also, a lot of our projects is about having a big portfolio. We take in kind of all different types of energy because sometimes we end up saving something we didn't realize. When we started the biogas project, we really didn't realize that there was going to be such a huge jump in natural gas prices. And so we ended up seeing a lot of unrealized gains or profit from that process.
When we did the first biogas engine install in 2015, 2014, when we were looking at the payback, the heat recovery wasn't even a part of the payback calculation because at the time natural gas was 11 cents a therm. Now we're operating that heat recovery with natural gas more than $1 a therm. So like Chris mentioned, it's, the way utility prices have been going, there was a lot of unanticipated savings. We knew it was there, we just didn't know it would be as significant.
And I see Corey's question in the chat there, asking if we're using treated effluent for the hydrogen system. We would really love to, and that's what we all went into it thinking this was very cool. But no, you need like ultra pure water. So we'll have a small water treatment system for our city water before the electrolyzer.
Yes. But again, the water consumption for that process is quite small.
This is Scott again. I guess I'm just asking all the questions today. I came in late, but did you guys talk about the PFAS biosolids project? Like, I'm just wondering what the status of that is. Are you still on board with that, or I see some smiling? Has that been delayed because of funding issues?
No, we're waiting. We did get on the next step for and its bar is running that project. On LCCMR, they're waiting on the legislation essentially. But I was laughing because we're all living in PFAS world right now. So.
One little tidbit that I can share is 374 Water is the company Bar Engineering is working with for this supercritical water oxidation process. It's kind of like a pressure cooker for biosolids. This same technology now is being piloted for the city of Miami. So I read an article about it a month ago. So it's kind of interesting that, the pilot skid that potentially would be coming up here is being commissioned right now in another state as another PFAS project pilot. So just a little tidbit for you.
All right. Well, thank you for all of that. Does anybody besides Scott? No, if you have more questions, Scott, feel free to jump in. But if anybody else wants to throw any questions in the chat or just go ahead and unmute and ask our our very experienced group some questions, feel free to do so.
Well, I have one. That is just amazing work to me. This is just extraordinary to see what you guys are doing in terms of this innovation. It's very inspiring, I think. I think everyone's going to agree that this is really, really great stuff. I do have a question. Have you been able to advertise what you have been doing to the community, to St. Cloud? And I'm kind of wondering what kind of feedback you've gotten from, the citizens in St. Cloud. I mean, how is this bouncing off the people in St. Cloud?
So generally, and any municipality on here might probably agree with me. Generally, what residents care about is what their water and wastewater rates are. And we haven't raised rates over this whole process. We've done this with guaranteed savings projects, with grants, with loans. We haven't raised rates as a result of any of these projects. And because, like everyone's mentioned, the increase in utility prices, we've actually been able to keep our rates down, and we don't have to reflect that we're paying for more natural gas and more electricity. So in terms of the average resident, they may know, they may not know. Our local paper picks up a lot of our city council items. So every time a project goes to city council, it will make the paper, the local news. And any feedback we've had is generally really positive. The support from city admin and city council is obviously huge for that. But no, we don't go out of our way to advertise per se. We do love hosting people, lots of different groups. And these guys have been overwhelmed with tours this past couple of months.
We've had an uptick in tours, which is good.
People are interested, and other
People are
facilities
interested.
will call and, can we come see this? Can we come see that? And we love sharing that because that's how we learn. Like with our high strength waste project, fire salts, Wisconsin were ahead of us. So a few of us took a road trip out there and went to 4 or 5 different facilities to see all what they were doing for high strength waste receiving. And that's how we learned. So why wouldn't we share that with everybody that wants to know?
We did a facility tour for Montreal or Winnipeg, right, Chris?
Yep, Winnipeg. Yep.
Winnipeg. So Winnipeg is doing a pretty massive nutrient recovery process, and they exclusively wanted to come to our facility, see how we're doing the nutrient recovery, and again, I think that says a lot to our staff, and again, this process has been installed. This process was installed in 2018, so I mean, we've been shown to operate it very effectively and very efficiently, and facilities want to come here and hear what St. Cloud has to say. So I think that says a lot.
Hi, this is John Chikala. I have not worked in wastewater, but have a general question is, do you say no to any facilities such as like a dairy farmer has spoiled milk and they want to bring it to your site, or something similar in nature, either high in BOD, COD, or anything that can maybe interfere with bug setting facility?
So we do, one of our high strength waste providers, I think it's still anyone, is dairy related. So we do take anything that's high in COD and liquid. We generally will entertain the thought. A random farmer, we haven't had just contact us, but dairies and we do permit everyone. We have a pretty rigid pre-treatment program. So everything is screened, and we want to make sure we're not going to upset our digesters. All of the high strength waste goes directly to our digesters, so it doesn't go through our aeration system at all. And that was one, back when we first started accepting high strength waste. We're all familiar with our bugs in the anaerobic process, aeration process, sorry. We were very nervous about adding high strength waste to our digesters because we didn't know how much they can handle. They can handle a lot, and we sometimes put that to the test. So yeah, especially if there's other municipalities that are in a bind, we will always entertain it.
Thank you.
Hello. Hey, thank you for this presentation. I'm wondering about the end use of the struvite, and if you can say more about where it is going. Is it commercial use, private use, approved for food applications,
So,
those kinds of things?
yep. So we just create a part of it. It's actually finalized. The product is finalized with Ostera. Ostera does sell this similar product called Crystal Green, which is the product that we are creating and they're finishing. But most of what we produce is actually going to the Red River Basin.
To the Red River Basin, as in for ag use? Is that
Correct.
okay?
Commercial
Yep.
farming.
Thank you.
All right. Are there any other questions or comments that you guys have for our presenters? Are getting pretty close here to the end of our time together. So
Thank you
that's
for
really-
having us.
Yeah, thank you.
Yes, so thank you. Absolutely. Thank you for sharing your wonderful work with us. It is definitely inspiring, as Mark suspected that it would be. So also thanks to Mark for tracking these guys down and being aware of this project so that we could all learn about it and hear about the wonderful success and the great work that's going on right up in St. Cloud. So
Yeah, thanks so much for coming in and telling us about it. I was prepared to drag you guys in here physically to talk about your work. So yeah, thanks a lot. And really, like somebody else said, keep it up. This is great. Really, really nice work.
Thank you.
Thank you.
We appreciate the kind words.
all right. Well, everybody have a wonderful day. And we'll see you all in, I think, about 2 weeks here for our next water issues talk. So thanks again to our speakers and for everybody who was able to join us today.
Thank you.
Thank you.